The late 18th century was a time of upheaval across Europe. The French Revolution had shattered centuries of monarchy, privilege and tradition. The guillotine had claimed King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette. The Catholic Church had lost lands and power. Aristocrats fled, while ordinary men rose to positions of influence. The crowned heads of Europe looked on in horror. To them, France was a contagion, a republic that threatened to spread revolution to their own subjects. To contain it, they formed the First and Second Coalitions. Yet out of this turmoil, one man rose to prominence. Napoleon Bonaparte, a young general with unmatched ambition. This is the saga of the Napoleonic Wars. A clash of empires, ideologies and personalities. Napoleon's early career offers hints of what was to come. During the siege of Toulon in 1793, he reorganized artillery placements with such precision that the city fell, driving out Britain's navy. At only 24, he was promoted to brigadier general. By 1795, he put down the royalist uprising in Paris, using artillery loaded with grapeshot to sweep the streets clean in what he called a whiff of grapeshot. Ruthless, decisive, and willing to spill blood, Napoleon proved he could preserve the revolution's gains. His campaign in Italy, 1796–1797, turned him into a legend. The army of Italy had been starving and neglected, yet Napoleon inspired them with promises of victory and plunder. He marched them with lightning speed across mountain passes, defeating Austria's allies in a series of stunning victories. At Lodi, he personally led a charge across a bridge under fire, cementing his reputation as fearless. At Rivoli, he outmaneuvered a superior Austrian force, using terrain to funnel them into a killing ground. Within a year, he forced Austria to sue for peace in the Treaty of Campo Formio. France's leaders worried Napoleon might become too powerful. To keep him busy and perhaps far away, they sent him on an ambitious expedition to Egypt. In 1798, Napoleon defeated the Mamluks at the Battle of the Pyramids, deploying squares of infantry that shredded cavalry charges. From the heights of these pyramids, he told his men, 40 centuries look down upon you. But his glory didn't last. The British fleet, commanded by Admiral Horatio Nelson, destroyed the French navy at the Battle of the Nile. Napoleon was stranded. He turned his attention to Syria, but his forces were halted at Acre, where disease and stiff Ottoman resistance forced retreat. Sensing France's political instability, Napoleon abandoned his army and slipped back to Paris. There, the Directory government was weak, corrupt, and despised. In 1799, Napoleon staged the coup of 18 Brumaire, seizing power as first consul. The revolution was over, a new authoritarian order was born. By 1804, Napoleon transformed himself from consul to emperor of the French. In his coronation, he took the crown from the Pope's hands and placed it on his own head. The message was clear. He owed his authority to no one. But enemies quickly rose. Britain, Austria, and Russia formed the Third Coalition. In 1805, Napoleon planned to invade Britain, massing troops at Boulogne. But Nelson struck first. At Trafalgar, the British destroyed the Franco-Spanish fleet. Nelson himself was mortally wounded, but his victory secured British naval supremacy for the next century. Undeterred, Napoleon turned east. In December 1805, at Austerlitz, he executed one of history's greatest tactical masterpieces. Feigning weakness, he lured the Austrians and Russians onto the Pratzen Heights, then smashed their center with a devastating counterattack. The Battle of the Three Emperors ended in crushing victory. The following year saw Napoleon at his zenith. In 1806, he annihilated Prussia at Jena-Auerstedt, capturing Berlin within weeks. In 1807, he crushed Russia at Friedland, forcing Tsar Alexander into the Treaty of Tilsit. France now dominated continental Europe. Napoleon dismantled the Holy Roman Empire, replacing it with the Confederation of the Rhine, but Britain remained beyond reach. To weaken them, Napoleon launched the Continental System in 1806, banning European nations from trading with Britain. It backfired. Resistance exploded in Spain, where guerrilla warfare, backed by British troops under Arthur Wellesley, the future Duke of Wellington, drained French resources. Even as he won the Battle of Wagram in 1809 against Austria, Napoleon's empire was showing cracks. In 1812, relations with Russia collapsed. Tsar Alexander rejected the Continental System, reopening trade with Britain. Napoleon decided to act. He assembled the Grande Armée, a colossal force of over 600,000 men drawn from across his empire. In June, they crossed the Niemen River into Russia. The Russians avoided pitched battle, retreating and burning villages in a scorched earth strategy. At Borodino, the bloodiest single day of the war, Napoleon won a costly victory, losing tens of thousands. He entered Moscow only to find it abandoned and set ablaze. With winter approaching and supplies exhausted, Napoleon ordered a retreat. The horrors of the Russian winter, starvation, and constant harassment by Cossacks reduced the army to a shadow. Barely 100,000 straggled back. The disaster in Russia inspired the Sixth Coalition. Britain, Austria, Prussia, Russia, Sweden and others united. In 1813, Napoleon fought desperately in Germany. At Leipzig, the Battle of Nations, his forces were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. By 1814, the Allies marched into Paris. Napoleon abdicated, exiled to Elba. But in 1815, he escaped. In the dramatic 100 Days, he rallied France once more. Soldiers sent to arrest him instead joined him, shouting, "Vive l'Empereur!" On June 18, 1815, at Waterloo, Napoleon faced Wellington and the Prussians under Blücher. Rain delayed his attack, giving the Allies time to fortify. The French assaults nearly broke through, but the arrival of the Prussians sealed his fate. The French army collapsed. Captured, Napoleon was sent to St. Helena, a remote island in the South Atlantic. There he lived in isolation until his death in 1821. The Napoleonic Wars left Europe scarred but transformed. Monarchies were restored, yet the ideas Napoleon spread, nationalism, meritocracy, legal reform, endured. His Napoleonic Code influenced legal systems worldwide. His military strategies became case studies for generals ever since, but the cost was staggering. Millions died, cities were burned, economies wrecked. Napoleon remains one of history's most fascinating figures, a brilliant strategist, tireless reformer, and ruthless dictator. His meteoric rise and tragic fall make his story one of the most dramatic in human history.